New reporting from the Washington Examiner reveals that two nonprofit groups connected to the Global Disinformation Index, a British think tank that aims to fight disinformation online, are, quote, refusing to disclose key details about their operations, citing a federal exemption law on harassment. The two entities involved include the Disinformation Index Foundation and its public charity Disinformation Index, Inc., reportedly gave the Washington Examiner, quote, heavily redacted copies of their 2021 IRS tax returns. A lawyer for the two groups is claiming that the redactions were made because the groups are the target of a, quote, harassment campaign. According to the Examiner, this is a claim that, quote, multiple tax experts warn does not allow them to hide information on officers, board members, and in the case of one group, omit the source of a donation, end quote.
Twitter Files author Michael Schellenberger tweeted, the Global Disinformation Index, which encourages advertisers to boycott disfavored news outlets, claims it offers transparent data and intelligence. But now it's been caught redacting its IRS forms to hide the names of board members.
So this is infuriating to me because the Global Disinformation Index is one of these misinfo cops that gets government funding, funded by the State Department, that assembled that list of the 10 riskiest news sites. And the magazine I write for Reason was on it. Their goal is to stop advertisers from working with your site. And they have all these reports and press releases and things that are like, these sites are bad. Look at how they were spreading racist conspiracy theories about lab leak. And we know how that turns out. But they dinged specifically Reason for three things that I didn't even know what that actually meant. It was authorship, attribution, sourcing, or something. Like, all our articles say who the author is. We link to sources. We publish corrections. So it didn't make sense. But the nerve of these people to yell at you for not having sufficient authorship and sourcing and correction policies when they hide who is working with them, who is funding, who's giving them their donations, who's on their board. And in fact, I caught them. They had Ann Applebaum. They said Ann Applebaum was their journalistic board advisor. She's a well-known writer for The Atlantic and some other things. And she got attacked. I was one of the people attacked. I was criticizing her for being involved in this. But I emailed her and said, and to ask her about her involvement in this, which was more than anyone else did. And she responded in saying that while she had once had a conversation with them years ago, she had nothing to do with it. She did not consider herself an advisor to the group in any formal capacity, despite her name being on the website. So then they stealth-edited their website to remove her name without saying they'd done that. So they violated every single one of the policies that they said makes you one of the riskiest news outlets. And this is my problem with all of these disinformation people. They do not walk the walk. They are hall monitor type people for you, but then they're not rigorous enough to avoid misinforming people, the public, more broadly. So it's rank hypocrisy, and I'm so fed up with it. And especially that they're government funded is disgusting.
It seems like, your point about, you attacking her, which I don't, let's use a different word.
I criticized her on Twitter.
You pushed back on Twitter.
But Elon Musk responded to it, so she got a lot of criticism after that.
But the justification they've given here for redacting these IRS forms is that these groups have been a target of a harassment campaign, which may or may not be the kind of thing that you're describing here. And we have also seen a trend. Of course, real harassment does exist at times, but we also have seen a trend of people kind of weaponizing the idea of harassment.
Right. What if we lost advertisers at Reason? Could I say we were the target of a harassment campaign because you said things about us that were false and made up? And there's not going to be a write-up in the Washington Post by the tech reporter who writes about online right-wing harassment saying, oh, this group was innocently harassed. Like, that would never happen for us. That only happens for Nina Jankowicz type people when they get they can dish it out, but they can't take it.
Yeah, this is part of a broader project. In the same way that you are taking information that you don't agree with and characterizing it as misinformation or disinformation, you're taking criticism that you don't agree with and characterizing it as harassment. And this is part of this kind of language game that I think has generated some good faith, legitimate pushback from, across the political spectrum, but it's been identified with the right against some of the newfangled language that's been used that kind of ramps up trauma and ramps up, characterizes everything in these clinical terms that gives it more heft, weight, and force in an argument, but isn't really a there. And so you have this weaponization of language that really can distort what's happening on the ground, which is that I think the real bullies in this situation, as you've described them, and as you described them in that really great radar you did about a month or so ago about this subject, are the ones that are claiming victim status.
Yeah, it really infuriates me. And, it goes to the heart of what the Twitter files were getting at more broadly, which is it is true that there is this coalition of nonprofits, media outlets, and in some cases government agencies that have weaponized the concept, in my view, of misinformation, disinformation. Not all the time. Sometimes there is, really bad, not true, incorrect stuff out there, and it is the job of journalists to identify it. But it has also resulted in a lot of restrictions on speech online that were not really well thought out. I think a lot of heavy-handed moderation. And it is not. It is good. It should be transparent at the very least. We should know that it's going on. And I really wish this project would continue. So it is frustrating, as we talked about yesterday, that this partnership between Taibbi and Musk, at least, maybe Schellenberger as well, is coming to an end because of Elon's wounded pride about a kind of trivial thing. Because there was a lot of good journalism being done.
I would like for also to continue. It seems like it's not just because of Taibbi and Musk's fight. When as we covered yesterday, Musk in that Twitter what do you call it? Twitter Spaces conversation was asked about the future of the Twitter files night before last, and says, I think it's everything has to end sometime. Basically, I'm loosely paraphrasing. That's very disappointing. It seems like the project in its entirety is ending, and it raises questions about the level of investment people had in the underlying principle, which I think is an important one to be invested in, versus how much it was about painting a picture of a new Twitter that's different from the old Twitter, without really there being any interrogation of whether or not substantive changes have been made in the new Twitter.
Yeah, it feels a lot like new boss, same as the old boss right now.
Yeah, and that the Twitter files, it would be tragic if this is how it ended up, because there was so much usefulness in the substance of the reporting. But from Elon's perspective, it seems like he's dropping the project as soon as he's accomplished his goal of branding himself as someone who's made a departure from the mistakes of old Twitter. At the same time that we've seen him make very capricious moderation decisions, choosing to ban the journalists that were covering the Elon Jets account, making decisions about very capriciously whether to bring back Kanye or leave Kanye, or bring back Alex Jones or leave Alex Jones on the basis of the personal tragedies he's experienced or his personal friendships, as opposed to standards that would be equally applied to everyone, even if you're not a celebrity who happens to be friends with Elon Musk. That's exactly the kind of criticism that he's been making. That's the critique he's been making of the blue checks. Oh, it shouldn't just be for elites. Well, if you're making decisions about content moderation based on your friendship with other elites, then how can we trust that what's really driving your decisions around blue checks, it's about elitism as opposed to you trying to make more money? And are you just using people's sincere investment in equality and having a more egalitarian app to kind of launder your own financial objectives?
I suspect we were only just beginning to peel back the layers of this coalition of disinformation and online censorship. So to say mission accomplished, the project is all done, that feels premature to me and deeply unfortunate. Yeah. We'll have more Rising right after this.